Money in the bank.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Money in the Bank. Today with me I have Brett.
Hey guys.
So it's kind of funny for us because we've taken a really long break from the podcast while we've been releasing one every week still. So we actually just got back from 3 weeks in Europe, which I thought was great. What did you think, Brett?
It was fantastic. I'm surprised we even came home, to be honest.
It was really close. So just kind of being fresh off vacation like that, we figured it would be a good time for us to share with you travel tips. A lot of our episodes have been very focused on don't spend money ever, totally deprive yourself, right? And so now we want to share, this is what we spend money on, but here's how we do it without breaking the bank, kind of, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because going over there and, it's really easy to just throw all your money away just on the plane tickets alone to get there, right? Let alone spending 3 weeks there, right? It can really get away from you very quickly.
Yeah. Exactly. And in the future, I will actually do a breakdown of what the trip should have cost us versus what it actually cost us using points and stuff. But for this episode, I just want to kind of talk about different things we do when we travel that are just kind of natural for us now. But as we talk to other people, we realize not everybody knows this. So one of the first things, right when you land in a foreign country, you think, I need money, right? And it's so easy to just think that you should get it at the airport and go to one of their ATMs or one of their currency exchange places.
Right, those places are everywhere. They just say exchange in huge letters everywhere you go, especially at the airport and every train station. Do not get it at that airport. If you do nothing else, do not change your money at the airport. Yeah,
their exchange rates are usually really bad, and sometimes they'll even come with an additional fee. So you're probably thinking, well, how do I get money then, right? I recommend just go to a regular, normal, local bank. If you absolutely need money, find an ATM at the airport and just pull out what you need. But don't get more than that. And then go to a regular bank's ATM and take the money out in the foreign currency, because then your bank will give you the exchange rate themselves and they'll do way better than even an ATM machine would, or one of those exchange counters.
Right, and we have, we've looked at our credit cards and our debit cards and what we're going to pull money out of, and take a look at what those transaction fees are if you use a debit card regularly. Does that make sense to continue using that card when you're going overseas? What is their foreign transaction fee rate? What is their charge rate on top of that? I think the minimum that we've found is 1% for a debit card to pull money out.
Yeah, so we use Ally Bank, which is an online bank, and you can use any ATM. And I believe they add a 1% fee. But their exchange rates, like I said, are really good. So it's still worth it to book it in the foreign currency and then just accept that 1%. So that was the way we got money out. But another thing that we do is a lot of times we just use credit cards. And for us, we have a 0% fee credit card.
Right. Yeah. So we have a couple. One of them is a Discover that has no foreign transaction fees, as advertised on the card. However, not many places we find take Discover globally. So that one's a little bit dicier. So you always want to travel with some form of Visa no matter what, because everywhere takes Visa that takes credit cards at all. Yeah,
so we travel with the Amazon Visa card because there's no international fees, and then you get some nice kickbacks to Amazon, which, we buy a lot of stuff on there, so that's nice. But I recommend looking into those. But there's a ton out there.
There's a lot, yeah.
So, check with what you have first, and you might find, you already have one that has good fees. And then it's that easy, you literally just use your credit card over there, and then they all kind of frown at you because you still have to sign it, and they've been on chip and PIN for a decade by now.
Right, yeah, their system is to type in a PIN number instead of, how we always do it here is we write our signature down. They're long gone off of that system, or some places never even had that system, right? So they use a secure PIN number. They bring the card scanner directly to you at the table at the restaurant. It's unheard of for them to take the card out of your hand and take it into the back room somewhere. That's really frowned upon. I think there was one place in our entire trip that actually ended up doing that, and I was very surprised.
Yeah, in Rome, actually. That was the only place that we had that happen.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll be looking out to get our credit card, stolen by somebody pretty soon, because that was a very odd thing to happen over there.
All right, well, moving on. So I think we kind of covered, what money to have and what cards to have. So then you're probably thinking, okay, well, I had to get here somehow. So flights, right? And flights are kind of the necessary evil where there's only so much you can do. I actually personally recommend using flights.google.com because they do a lot of the comparison for you. They bring in a lot of the major airfare and they'll track it. So if you're like, I'm looking at going in the next 6 months, you can get notifications and then it'll be like, this is the lowest this price has been in the past 6 months, right? So that's kind of a nice feature to use. But another thing that I want to mention with that, and we've talked about it briefly, but we've mentioned credit card hacking. And so right now, if you get like a Delta Sky Miles credit card, you get 60,000 bonus points if you spend, however much money in 3 months. So that's actually enough right there to do round trips. So our flights were comped because Brett travels so much and he had 120,000 miles and we got, both of our round trips. But that, that's kind of a nice perk right now. If you get that credit card, it could cover round trip for you. So, do you have anything to add there with airfare?
I mean, that's a situation where I was fortunate, most people aren't. If you're going to buy it straight up, you could get somewhere between, if you're on like a Norwegian airline, there's some new airlines coming out right now as of the last 3 months that are doing really low cost flights overseas. So you can look at some of those deals as well. I think those are going to be more of the model of like a Spirit Airlines where it's like pretty bare bones. You're going to pay for all the upgrades and anything you need. Take it or leave it there, but look into those airlines a little bit closer. We did Delta on this trip, and I think we did half of Delta the last time we flew just because I have so many points with them.
Yeah, well, and I will say, Delta, if you travel internationally, you get a free checked bag, which we always do carry-ons, which actually saves us a lot of money too. So I guess that's another tip. Take a backpack because then when you're traveling around Europe, you never have to worry about extra baggage fees. But as a side note, if you're looking at taking Spirit over there, just make sure you know what you're paying for because it's very easy to think that you know what you're getting and then you get to the airport and they're like, oh, you have a large carry-on instead of a small carry-on and that's going to be $100. And Spirit's not as bad, but the one I'm specifically thinking of is Wizz Air in Europe and it's literally that bad. Like if you show up and you didn't check in to your flight already, they'll charge you to be there. And it's just so bad.
Yeah, they have a whole counter dedicated, resources of people sitting at a fixed counter in the airports that use that airline that is larger than the check-in counters as far as staffing people, just to overcharge you for not being prepared when you get to the airport, right? If you are in a situation where you need to get into like the fast pass line, or you have a suitcase but it's the wrong size and you need to do something, or you paid to you opted to check in online beforehand before you got to the airport, but then you forgot to do so, so now you showed up at the airport and you can't check in online anymore, so now you have to pay like $120 to like check in, and it's just a complete racket. I can't even believe it.
Well, yeah, and one time last time when we were over in Europe, we paid to check our bags. We were like, we'll just not worry about it. It was a little bit cheaper. And then we got there and we were like, oh no, we really want to carry it on. We'll just switch to a large carry-on. And it literally would have been $50 per person. I mean, their fees are just ridiculous. So the only thing I caution, sometimes, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, can apply in this situation. So make sure you know what the fees are. We happened to take Wizz Air again, and it was definitely the cheapest flight for us, and we really truly only had carry-ons, and we kind of learned the system. But if you're not careful and you don't follow their rules, it could very easily be 3 times as much.
Yeah, it's an experience. I mean, if you need to fly around while you're there, I mean, we definitely recommend train travel. Even the overnight trains are fantastic if you're getting like a sleeper car or something. Like we did that while we were there as well. Highly recommended train travel. It's so easy. It's so much faster. It's very convenient. But if you're going large distances, I think before we flew from France to Hungary, and this time it was from Hungary to Italy, right? There's not great trains that are going direct to those locations, so we didn't have a choice. And Wizz Air just happened. Wizz Air and like Ryanair are the two low, budget airlines over there, and they, they just fly everywhere. They just have flights everywhere because they're so, low cost or keep their margins razor thin, right? So, if you have to do it, you have to do it, but just be aware that situation is in place. But do not be afraid to take the train. It's great.
So this is a random side note, and then we'll get back to trains. But when I was in business college, we actually did a case study on Ryanair and how, like, awful they were. Like, I mean, people literally would write reviews in about puke being left in the bags in the back of the seat, and, like, I mean, just, like, a mess, and it's super low budget, and it's, like, not a good user experience. But yet they're still so successful because they're half the price as everyone else. So people's hands are tied. They're like, even though this is the worst thing in the entire world, I will do it again because it's so much cheaper. Like, you kind of forget, like Wizz Air, we hated the first time. And then the second time we were like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, after the first time we were like, it doesn't matter how much it costs. We're never going to fly this again. And then the second time we were like, oh, but it's just so much cheaper. So we did it again, and we hated it again.
It was. And it was our only option in that particular scenario. Like, for the day we were leaving the city and the time we were leaving, I mean, there was just no other flight that entire day that was going to the Italian city that we needed to get to. So.
Right. Well, anyways, after that tangent about terrible airlines, let's talk a little bit more about trains, actually, and getting around Europe. So we went to 6 countries this time. And we never rented a car. So renting a car in Europe can be quite expensive to get, like, the proper insurance. And if you want to upgrade from a manual to an automatic, manuals are just a lot more common over there. So you pay an additional fee. So we just opted to not do that. And we completely relied on public transportation. And we did not have a problem getting anywhere we wanted to go. Even some smaller towns, we didn't just stick to main cities. We went to smaller towns too, and it just isn't a problem over there. So a couple tips there. If you're going from city to city, just make sure you look at planes, trains, and buses. So depending on the leg of the journey, we did different options, and they're all efficient and they all worked really well. It was just whatever was cheapest. I think our favorite mode of travel is definitely trains if we get to choose, but in certain instances it made more sense or it was cheaper to do buses or planes. And with trains, the biggest tip I can give you is to book on foreign websites. So even if you don't understand the language, if you use Chrome, it'll translate it for you. And I mean, you'll literally save even up to like half or 4 times, it'll be 4 times as less if you book it that way.
Yeah, because what is the one that always pops up to try and get you to do it? It's Eurorail or something like that says they can do anything for any country, right? So they are just buying the tickets from those local vendor websites and then just reselling them on their site at a markup, right? And their site is in English, right? So,
right.
If you can reach out and go directly to those like local sites, right? Like,
ICC was one, I think, that we used maybe in Italy. OBB was the one that we used from Prague to Austria and then Austria to Hungary was OBB. Mm-hmm. So different countries have different ones. For Poland, you can use the Polski bus. There's a lot of different, that's for buses, I guess. But there's a lot of different ones out there. Just kind of if you're, so as a sense check, when we traveled from Prague to Vienna, which was a 2-hour train ride or maybe a 3-hour train ride, it was $7 a person or €7 a person.
It's extremely inexpensive, right? Compared to what we pay here to, like, if you're going to take like the Amtrak across the country or from Chicago to anywhere, a couple hours away, it's like $100. It would be like $10 over there. Right.
And, overnight, we did an overnight train that was a 8-hour train ride, and it was from Poland to Prague. And we got our own sleeper cabin with a bathroom, so that was kind of an upgrade. And it was €60 a person for that one. And that was definitely our most expensive one.
It was a long journey, too. I mean, it was a 12-hour train ride. I mean, it was a big trip, and it was the sleeper car. But the sleeper car upgrade itself was not that expensive.
No, it was €5 a person.
Right. Yeah, because it's easier for them to, like, they have those cars available, and it's easier for them to just, like, tack the train cars onto that train. Right, so there's no really disincentive for them to offer that.
Yeah, and it was nice for us because we didn't have to have a hotel that night. So we actually, we didn't have to pay for that cost. So we got travel and accommodation kind of rolled into one. And it was actually, like, I was worried I wasn't going to be able to sleep, but it was I actually thought it was pretty comfortable. I don't know about you, but I slept really well that night.
I slept great, yeah. That rocking back and forth on the train as it goes is, like, very soothing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, can't complain. And they woke us up early. I mean, the whole procedure was just, like, fantastic. They brought us, like, coffee and snacks in the morning, like, straight to the door and everything. So it was great.
Oh, yeah. And, like, when we got on, he walked us right to our room, because we got picked up at a really small train station that felt like we were going to get murdered there for a while, but we didn't. So that was good. That's always good. All right. So, yeah. All right. So we covered, planes. We covered trains. We covered debit cards, ATMs. Okay. So now we'll say, you flew over there. You got a little bit of money that you needed. What did you do with that money, right? Because you have to get to your hotel or to city center, right? Please, 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 please look into public transit. I said so many pleases because that's how important it is to me. Because public transit, when you're in any big city, is super easy. But even over there, if we were not in big cities, it was super easy. Like, their public transit was just better, even in very small cities over there. So look into it because it's usually very, very inexpensive and very, very efficient.
Right. Most of them have great, like, subways, right? Or metros or whatever you want to call it. The bus systems in most cities are fantastic. They're extremely clean. They're very easy to get on and off. And most countries, like, I think 4 times, like, nobody even charges us to get on the bus.
Well,
we kept buying tickets.
No, so in Germany and Austria, you buy the tickets and then you validate them yourself because everyone there, like, follows the rules, so they just do it. But, like, you may or may not get checked. So we never got checked. We didn't even really understand what was going on. But apparently they do random checks every once in a while where if you don't have a ticket or your ticket is not validated, they charge you €100 fine. And if you don't have €100 on you, the security guard will walk you to the ATM to get your €100. So buy the tickets. They're really inexpensive. I think there it was like $1.50 or $2 for a ride in Austria. Germany was comparable. Italy was only like $1 a ride. And it's just so easy.
Yeah.
So easy.
So inexpensive. So easy, yeah. I mean, you're scaring people away. You're like, oh, yeah, the big bad security guard is going to get you if you don't, follow the rules correctly. Well, buy your ticket.
I mean, buy the ticket. Like, especially if you get to the airport, there will be a place that is selling transit tickets. So just buy a day pass or, when we stopped in Berlin, that's where we flew into, and we bought like a 4-day city pass, and it was definitely like a tourist scam, right? So instead of $7 a day, which it was supposed to be, it was like $7.50 a day, right? They really got us. But it actually came with this coupon booklet that we got like half off a walking tour, and we went to the Anne Frank Museum at a discount, so we definitely got our money's back.
We had gone to like 3 restaurants or something, and then didn't find out until we looked at the book later that we could have gotten discounts at all the places we were at also.
Yeah, so but we did at one of the restaurants, so like it was totally worth it to get that still, and 50 cents more a day. It was easy. But yeah, like definitely look into public transit. I think it scares a lot of people, but it's very, very easy. And I mean, if you have Google Maps on your phone and you download the maps, then you can still get directions even if you don't have data. And it'll tell you, like, ride the bus in this direction and get off at this stop. And here's every stop along the way. So you know when you're getting close. And it's so much cheaper. Like taxis can run to the airport, you might pay $50 to get back to city center, and we were doing it for less than $5.
Yeah, I think there was one time we ended up having to take a taxi to the airport, and that was in Rome, because they had a train that was there, but it would have taken longer, and we had a super early flight, and it's really far away from the city center, right, for Rome. And
it was our connecting flight home, so that was the one time we didn't want to deal with it. One other time we took a taxi in Prague because we left our passports in the hotel safe, and we were walking to the train station, and we were like 5 minutes away, and so it was like a 30-minute walk. So we were 25 minutes away from our hotel, and we were like, oh my gosh, we forgot our passports. And we wouldn't have made our train if we tried to walk there and back. So we grabbed a taxi, but that guy was super nice, and he only charged us for one way. I mean, he charged us €15, and we were like all over the city. So he was just doing us a favor.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have gotten home from the bar like 4 blocks over in Chicago for that much, right? Like $15 is nothing for a cab ride.
Yeah. But, so anyways, look into public transit. Don't be afraid of it. It'll, like, I know a lot of people use Uber now, but that's still more expensive. So public transit's great. Don't be scared of it.
And there are some countries that have Uber over there as well. It's not as popular. It's not catching on as well. And in some countries, it's banned. So just be aware of that before you go, that you wouldn't always be able to just jump on that. So
yeah, definitely. All right, so next, we talked a little bit about our coupon book in Germany, right, that gave us some deals on walking tours and stuff. But in general, if you're looking to do tours of cities or, a boat tour or any really organized activity, even going to a museum, take the 5 minutes to hop online before you go, even if it's just the night before, because most of the time it will be cheaper if you pre-buy versus if you buy at the door. And a lot of things are kind of scams if you try to do it day of, like, oh, hop on this, hop on, hop off bus tour for 25 or 30 euro a person when you could just buy public transit and do your own hop on, hop off. But, we did a lot of walking tours, and we actually did a guided tour at Auschwitz, which was very easy to book online, and it was literally, like, we saved 25% just by booking it ahead of time.
Right, and the line when we showed up there, if you show up, like, first thing in the morning, it's probably okay, or later in the day, after, like, 3 o'clock or something. I think they're open till 7, the line was down, but the line was, like, it must have been 100 yards long, basically, around noon, I think. People waiting in line just to buy tickets there. And if you just get them online ahead of time, like, boom, you're done, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even the day before, just do it the night before and you're fine. You don't have to wait in those lines for an hour probably or more with those guys who were waiting.
Right. Well, and we, when we were in Berlin, we found a walking tour that ended up being, like, very, very cheap compared to what we saw elsewhere, just because we took the time to, like, look it up and make our reservation the night before. So definitely do that. When we were in Rome, when we were at the Colosseum, if you're just, like, walking around and you don't have tickets, people will definitely approach you and be like, oh, come with me, like, I'll give you tickets. And honestly, a lot of times those are scams where, like, they'll say, oh, it's like $30 for a ticket, and then they're just reselling you the $10 ticket and they pocket that $20, So definitely just be aware of that. And if you're going to do things, if you can get online ahead of time, why not, right? There's no downside. All right, so we kind of beat that one to death. I think that's most of our hotels was the last thing we want to talk about, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So when we look for hotels, and there's different options in Europe, right? A lot of people do hostels, but we found when we're traveling with 2 of us and, we're an old married couple, we want our own personal space. So it's usually not that much more to get a hotel room, and we just kind of value that. Another really big thing over there is Airbnb, which we stayed at also. So I encourage you to just check different options. But, a lot of times we end up staying at, like, bed and breakfast or small little local hotels over, like, Hilton or, whatever the name brand ones are. And they end up being a lot cheaper, and they're actually usually, like, just as nice, if not nicer.
Yeah, because we've had points for those in the past, right, to stay at some of those places overseas, and they're interesting. They keep the same ambiance they have, but they're very American catering, right? And so we like to travel more where we're, like, immersed a little bit, or when we're traveling with other people, or when we're traveling in other countries, we want the people that are around us in those other hotels to be more European, even if they're not from that city, right? Just from, they're traveling around Europe as well. And, we get to, talk to them at breakfast or do whatever, get a little bit different perspective rather than getting the same American culture in that hotel when we're over there.
Well, yeah, like when we stayed in Prague, we stayed at this nice little hotel, and we actually met this awesome couple from the Netherlands. who had like lived in Nicaragua for a while. So we had traveled there recently. So we had like a lot in common with them. And it was kind of nice because we would bump into them randomly. And, it was, we had lunch with them one day. And so it's really cool to kind of get that experience, I guess. So not only is it cool to get that experience, but I've also found that these hotels tend to be more reasonably priced too. So
Certainly.
It's a win-win.
Yep.
And just kind of as a heads up, I guess, a lot of the strict European hotels will likely have smaller bathrooms and smaller rooms than you might be used to, but totally not the end of the world, it's fine. And quite a few of them don't have air conditioning. So, we went in August, which is definitely the hottest time of the year, but it wasn't too bad most days.
No, there was only like one or 2 days, I think, when we were in Prague where it was really hot. But we we just kept the windows open the whole time, and we were on like a little terrace that was on the river there, or one of the canals, and it wasn't too bad. They even gave us like a stand-up fan to put in our room and stuff. Like it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But that was about the hottest it got, I think, while we were there. I mean, when we were down in Rome, the hotels in Rome are more likely to have air conditioning because it's much farther south than the rest of the European countries we were visiting. So.
Right, and that's the thing. When you're in Germany or Austria, they don't get as many super, super hot days in the year, so they're less likely to have air in these older buildings. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just kind of keep that in mind when you travel so that you know what to expect. But, all right, well, I think outside of that covers most of what we had to talk about, right, Brett?
I think so, yeah.
All right, but if you have any other travel tips that we've missed, or of any other cool ways to save money when you travel, or, things we didn't talk about, feel free to drop me an email. I'll drop my contact information in. Or, if you liked what we had to talk about, or you didn't know something, let me know that too. I always like getting any feedback. So, thanks. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Money in the Bank. Make sure to subscribe to us on the iTunes or Stitcher app so that you get weekly alerts every time we post a podcast. Or if you want, you can visit my website, moneyinthebankpodcast.com. And if you want to reach out with any questions or further comments, please email me at Angie@moneyinthebankpodcast.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
Money in the bank.